In association with Sky Magazine is proud to present the 2015 World Beach Ultimate Championships. It is a beautiful morning in the United Arab Emirates, and we come to you from the city of Dubai. The third full day of competition begins 8 a.m. local time here on the beach, and it's great to have you with us wherever you might be watching, live here locally on Dubai Sports and all around the world as we stream online. I'm Evan Lepler, pleased to be joined by two of the great voices of Ultimate. We got the full crew this morning, Brian Jones and Megan Tormey to my left for this Masters Open competition. The Philippines against Team Canada, 8 Masters countries in the field. Each team plays 7 pool play games, and right now Canada is 3-2. The Philippines are 2-3. Both teams have 2 pool play games remaining, so certainly this is pivotal for positioning as they head toward bracket play, which begins tomorrow. Guys, another delightful morning here on the beach as we get ready. The wind should be a factor this morning. Brian, let's start with you. Your impressions from the first few days of competition leading into the action today.
Well, like a lot of teams here, the Philippines are coming into this game looking to improve as they go throughout this tournament. They've had some chemistry issues early on they want to sort out. They were hoping to practice for more than the 1.5 months that they got in. Canada, on the other hand, only had a couple of practices actually right before the tournament coming in, and so they're trying to sort out the chemistry. But we look across all of the divisions. Team USA is the prohibitive favorite in each. The Philippines and other divisions are doing well, and it's just been an exciting tournament all around.
Megan, as we look at this game, in these two ultimate countries, the Philippines and Canada, certainly the Canadians, one of the top ultimate organizations in the world, and the Philippines, a perennial power on the beach. What about the two styles that these two countries are typically known for?
Well, when you look on Team Canada, the number of years of experience that each player has, we're moving into 2 decades. Canada having a very strong ultimate program. People are indoctrinated very early in their youth. Contrast that with the Philippines. A lot of these players, Ultimate is newer to the Philippines, so you have a few players who have a little more than a decade experience, and then some people who are a little bit newer to the sport. Couple that with the fact that when your program is newer, it takes a while before good coaching and good technique comes into your area. But the Philippines, something the Philippines have over Canada, because it's been a smaller program for longer, these players know each other a little bit better than Canada, even though the Canadian players have seen each other over the years. This is, of course, the first time this exact team has fielded a team together.
It is remarkable to realize how one ultimate mind going to a small corner of the globe can transform a country's ultimate program. And we saw down on the sand before the game today, Tim Morrill, guy who played ultimate at Salisbury, works for Boston Ironside, one of the premier ultimate strength and conditioning coaches in the world. He has been in the Philippines for the last few months, working full-time to prepare all of the Boracay Dragons, focusing on the open and the mix, but we saw him running in great detail the pregame stretching and conditioning exercises for this Masters team as well. Certainly an intense figure, and that's the type of guy who basically chooses a place in the world to bring his knowledge to, a transformative force, Brian.
Absolutely. Tim Morrill is just incredible in the passion. We were talking about that beforehand. The passion he brings to the strength and conditioning and how detailed he is in his preparation for it. Just incredible in the way that he gets teams to be better, move better, more efficient, and it translates directly onto the ultimate field.
Jasper Manlapaz, the opening pull, and we are underway here in Dubai. The Philippines against Team Canada in the Masters division. The standings in the Masters Open bracket right now in pool play. USA and Great Britain both 4-0 heading into today's action, with Germany and Canada both 3-2. France and the Philippines both 2-3. India and Courier Island rounding out that Masters Open division. Crafty break underneath. This is Hugo Lafrancois. And a quick give and go from Dave Sharma up to Jamie Craig. The captains of Team Canada, Dennis Hummerston, Jamie Craig, and Peter Lewis. And as Megan said, this is a very experienced team. A bunch of these guys have been to Beach Worlds in the past. Dennis Hummerston, the captain, who currently lives in Vancouver, been playing Ultimate for more than 20 years, and this is his third Beach Worlds.
It's great to bring that experience into this tournament when you know it's going to be a week-long event.
Basic dump swing offense from Team Canada, and that's what we've come to expect. Good fundamental play, Megan, from the Canadians.
Right, and they came into this game knowing that the advantage they have over the Philippines is to move quickly. The Philippines, of course, being known across all teams in this tournament as a very, very fast, quick team. They figured they can't outrun the Philippines, so they'll try and exhaust them early by keeping their movements short and concise.
It's going to be interesting to see if the Filipino offense can be as solid as the Canadians were on that opening point. In just a few minutes, we will be joined briefly by Tim Worrell and learn a little bit more about what his life has been like. The American trainer. I joke with him saying that if the Open final ends up being the U.S. and the Philippines, we'll have him on and he can explain why he's a traitor. But, you know, Jürgen Klinsmann battled against the German national team. That's international sport for you.
And it's just great for the sport to send an ambassador like Tim Worrell over to the Philippines. It's not like we got gathered around and sent him. Tim did it on his own. But that's how this Ultimate community gets better. Teams coming to this, developing nations, India, Kenya, Uganda are here as well, trying to get better, trying to see what's good Ultimate.
You think a big part of having 2015 Beach Worlds in Dubai is sort of the spirit of expanding this sport?
Absolutely. When you bring it to, this is the first time we've had a major tournament in the Middle East, and it's a great location for Beach Ultimate, so that makes so much sense in my eyes.
Will Steedman, an American on this Masters team, gets it up line, and then a nice little flick to the end zone. Derek Ramsey makes the play. Number 11 for the Boracay Dragons Masters team. And Derek Ramsey has been called the Brad Pitt of the Philippines. He is a famous celebrity, an actor, a commercial model. I mean, Megan, you're probably the best judge. Is he a good-looking fella?
You know, Tim Worrell was the one who gave us that little factoid, and he said, yeah, Derek Ramsey is the of the Philippines, and I looked up and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. I get that.
Where did your husband go again?
Doesn't matter right now.
I don't know, Evan. He doesn't look like my type.
Jasper Manla Paz to pull. The Philippines have evened this at 1. If this is your first Beach Ultimate experience, obviously some key differences to the grass game. This is 5-on-5, a smaller field. It's about 45 meters long from the front of the end zone to the other front of the end zone. 15-yard end zones making for a 75-yard pitch in the full field. 25 meters wide compared to the larger Club Ultimate field. So Team Canada on offense. Underneath, J.F. Paul. And now in the middle of field for Dave Sharma. All the cuts sort of coming out of the handler set, except for that one, and a good low release flick break. Jamie Craig, a dazzling low release for the Canadian score.
And that's the type of throws you come to expect in the Masters division. They may be a little bit slower, a little bit older, but the throws are on point. Jamie Craig having a lot of experience actually in Worlds outside of Beach, playing last year with Phoenix in Lecco.
So disciplined, and one thing that I think is fun to watch in the Masters division is even though there are still chemistry issues, you find that people fall back on their training, revert back to the habits they've developed over the years, and Canada is showing they've developed quite a few good habits over the years. We didn't have any clogging in the end zone. Dan Ellenberger had the entire end zone to work with on that one, making him a prime target for an inside-out toss.
Yeah, great spacing from the Canadians, and just a fantastic field sense, knowing that there was one cutter in the end zone. He went break side while the others were cutting up the line to that open side. have a couple fans with us here in the stadium seats for this opening game. Action just getting underway, a full day of ultimate competition. We'll have 4 games for you here on Dubai Sports and on the stream. A couple hours from now, we'll have India and Germany in the open division, then later Great Britain and Germany in the women's division, and then Portugal takes on Russia in the mixed. That Portugal team is undefeated heading into the day. USA and Portugal both 5-0 in the mixed division. As the Philippines work it downfield, we're very pleased to be joined by Tim Morrow, who's become the strength and conditioning czar for the Boracay Dragons as they punch it into the end zone, tying it at 2. Tim, take us through the process of your first becoming this maestro of strength and conditioning for the Filipino team.
Well, I guess it would start back as a captain of Salisbury University, where you went, Evan. I saw that there was nobody doing strength and conditioning for Ultimate, and I Googled how to train athletes for Ultimate, and there's nothing. So that started kind of the beginning of, hey, I'm going to figure this out. And it took me to working with a lot of different teams, Brute Squad, Ironside, working Division I university, and a couple big gyms, and then I decided I wanted to start playing Ultimate again because, full-time strength and conditioning coach, you don't get much opportunity to play Ultimate. So in 2014, I did a World Beach Ultimate Tour, and the last stop was Boracay Island, Philippines for their tournament. And I just fell in love with the island and the team. The Boracay Dragons just treated me like family, and I ended up doing a couple sessions with them in 2014, and ended up going back to the island, importing kettlebells, and training these guys for the past 6 weeks.
It's an unbelievable journey, and I first met you, as you mentioned, when I was in 2008 working for the Delmarva Shorebirds baseball team in Salisbury for the summer.
Yep.
Wandered onto the Salisbury campus. You were the captain of the team, and here we are together
Small world.
7 years later.
It's awesome.
March of 2015 in the United Arab Emirates, and the Philippines team forces the first turnover. What have you been most impressed by the character of the Filipino ultimate culture, and what are your expectations for what these teams can accomplish both this year and going forward?
I think it's obvious, the spirit of these guys. I mean, Philippines, you're on this beach every day, beautiful blue waters, everybody's happy, everybody's smiling. So we got very spirited teams. And then a lot of these guys are islanders, so they've been playing on the beach their whole life. So I think you can tell they're very used to running on the sand. They're very fast.
Miscommunication there from the Philippines, giving it back to Canada.
So as far as expectations, the Masters team, a lot of these guys haven't trained with us on the island. A lot of these guys live in Manila, other provinces, and are just coming together for this tournament. But the mixed and the open divisions, most of the guys have been on the island training full time for the past 6 weeks, and that's 6 times a week, 2 times a day, and all their food and housing is paid for. They're professional athletes, so we have big expectations for those 2 teams.
Canada looking deep for Le Francois, right on the money, and the Canadians lead 3-2.
And in general, you're a big name in the ultimate community now. A lot of teams in the East Coast are trying to use you, and it seems like you're getting a lot of buy-in. When was the first time that you got noticed in the ultimate community and you knew you kind of had arrived in terms of building this brand?
Well, YouTube is a very powerful tool. And when I was working at the University of Northern Iowa, I was a Division I strength coach, worked with track and field, football, soccer, swimming, diving, and ultimate was my passion. So there was a club team there, Ammunition, and I talked to the head strength coach. I'm like, we got track and field in the weight room. Why can't we have my sport in the weight room too? So I started training those guys, getting them in the weight room, teaching them Olympic lifts, and threw a video up on YouTube and said, Olympic lifting for ultimate, and people started seeing it. And then after that job, I moved back to Florida, and that was right around the time that Brody started doing his YouTube stuff. And I remember being at a Starbucks with Brody, and he's like, dude, you can put annotations and click so that people can go to other videos. And he showed me the basics of YouTube, and that's when people really started inquiring about clinics and wanting to get involved. And I've been trying to keep up, just kind of putting it out there for the community to help them grow and realize that ultimate players are athletes and we need to train like athletes.
Amazing. Brody Smith has become a YouTube sensation, and one of his great achievements is teaching Tim Morrow how to use YouTube.
Yep.
Well, we know you got to head out momentarily, but you've been playing beach ultimate for a while. I'm sure it was just an excuse to live your life on the beach. But what are your expectations for as we watch the rest of this game here? Can this Filipino Masters team hang with the Canadians?
You know, as far as who's given Team USA a run for their money, it's been this Philippine Masters team. I think it was a close game. No other team has scored that much, and I absolutely believe these guys can bring it together. And you know, they've got the endurance, they've got the spirit, and you know, we could see as long as they don't turn it over and play their game, I think that we could pull this game out.
You got the Filipino mixed team getting ready for a game against Sweden in about 47 minutes, so we'll let you go.
And that team's looking stronger and stronger every game. It's really exciting. Yep, I got to get over there. Call time's 8:15. Get there and warm them up.
What's the first warm up you're going to do with them?
We do what we call 4-way hip static stretching. Hey, we got to unlock our hips, and we got to stretch front side, back side, inside, outside. So we have one stretch for each part of the hip.
Sometime you can teach me, Brian, and Megan about this 4-way hip experiment.
Absolutely. You can come to Ocean City this summer and play in our tournament, the Ocean City Beach Classic, and warm up with us.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Tim Morrill, thanks for joining.
Hey,
we'll see you
Brian.
soon.
Thanks, Evan.
3-2, the Canadians lead the Philippines. If you're looking for Tim Morrill, find the guy who's got his name on his shirt. That's how he made it big. Functional performance training, and you know, certainly a guy, Brian, who came into this craft at the right time and is capitalized as an innovator in this field.
Just as media has exploded in this sport in general, with sites like Sky Magazine, which who we're here with Ulti World, with just the exposure on Twitter, you're right, it was exactly the right timing to get involved, to make sure that you could spread the word, and that's how Tim has become such a big name in the sport.
The Canadians trying to capitalize on this turnover and earn the game's first break.
You know, Evan, I think me and you grew up in the ultimate age of RSD, where we were just clamoring for any information, true or false.
Control R as often as you could when there was nothing there.
No updates, and any updates might not be true. No fact checking, all trash talk. Ultimate's come a long way.
Trying to figure out the difference between Frank and Crazy Frank. Still trying to figure that out sometimes. Here we go, timeout called on the field. In beach, you only get one timeout, so the Canadians, sensing that the Filipinos have really counterpunched well here, have an opportunity for the upfield break, so they're talking it over. Again, the Canadian team 3-2, the Philippine team 2-3. The Canadians were actually 0-2, having lost to Great Britain in the U.S., 13-8 and 13. Or lost by 6 to the U.S., lost by 3 to Great Britain, and actually were down in their third game against France, staring an 0-3 start right in the eyes when Jamie Craig made a big D to help turn the tide, and they came back to beat France, beat Courier Island, beat India. And everyone does make bracket play in the 8-team mixed Masters field, open Masters field. We watched some of the highlights, this great footage put together by the team from Dubai Sports. Multiple camera shots. I'll be honest, guys, flying over here, had no idea what to expect, but the fact that we have all these cameras and this incredible producer, Najib, and the team from Sky and U2 and this tent to give us some shade and 3 headsets, this is really a dream come true.
I think the key word you said there was tent. Making sure that we have shade in the hot weather. Right now it's very cool in the morning, but it will get hot out. But the ocean's just far away, not too far away. Able to go swimming yesterday. We'll have to get the whole crew in there later on.
And it is a very festive atmosphere, but there's a serious tone to the competition as well. Certainly, I don't think it's like the seriousness of Worlds in Lecco or a USAU national championship, or really any country's national championship. But we do expect, today is going to feel a lot different, I would imagine, than Monday. And then 2 days from now on Friday, that's when the intensity will really peak.
Well, comparing the 2 tournaments you have mentioned, when Worlds is played on grass, you go with a team that you've spent hours and hours practicing together with. And here we have a team that's coming together for the very first time. So the spirit is definitely camaraderie at the very beginning of this tournament, not only between teammates, but between countries as well. And of course, that camaraderie continues, but the competition starts to intensify.
Discussion here, a pick was called, and the thrower didn't realize it and put it deep to a cutter who had stopped his run because he had heard a pick call. This is an interesting wrinkle in the rules, and I think by the book, that throw will continue. And I'd like to see that rule revisited, but technically a pick isn't recognized until it's recognized by the thrower. So that's a tough break for the Filipino team. And
actually,
what do you think about that rule?
I'm not sure here in lifted rules. We'll have to get a rule check, but I believe the Canadians might be playing by the USAU version of the rule, which is that the pick does continue play if the thrower doesn't recognize. But I think in WFDF rules that the Philippines may have a case, but either way they have to discuss it on the field and figure it out. I think in USAU rules, I like the way the pick is called. As long as it doesn't affect the play, you kind of learn after a time period to keep playing through that call. And it's necessary because in the past, I remember when I first started playing Ultimate, that was the rule. Pick stopped everything. It didn't, regardless, it always went back.
Isn't it good spirit, though, if I'm a cutter and I hear a pick called, I should stop. I should hold my position. And then, if obviously there's a lot of noise, the thrower could be 45 yards downfield. He might put it to me deep. I've already stopped, whether I'm able to make up the play or not. In the Philippines, that's a well-deserved point to tie it at 3. Now, what do you think? It's certainly a little bit of a conflict there.
It's a great question about spirit. Let's take a look at the layout. It's a great question about spirit, and a lot of people go back and forth because some people think about spirit and they say, all right, let's play completely fair. And others think about spirit and let's play by the letter of the rules. And I think it's necessary in some way to have that balance of to know, should we institute this rule that keeps the game moving forward? In the case of the cutter deciding to stop when they hear the pick call, it's something unfortunate, like you said, Evan. I have to teach my players in the United States when we play under USAU rules, you keep playing no matter what. Until the thrower is recognized and sitting there and calming and just relaxed, knowing that they're not engaged in the play doesn't stop until the thrower recognizes. And that's the way the rules read right now.
3-all, half is at 7. Soft cap at 45 minutes. 20.5 minutes have elapsed here in this open Masters contest between Canada and the Philippines. High release, lefty backhand to the end zone.
Very impressive continuation timing for the Canadians.
Layout there for Dan Ellenberger, and it's 4-3.
One of the shorter points we've had so far, that just once again exhibiting the smooth flow of the Canadian offense. They took one look downfield, noticed a slightly open cut through to space. That's how they were able to flow so seamlessly.
That's something, if I'm the Philippines, that's a sign that we were not ready defensively. Personally, as a coach, if I see possessions like that's something that can make my blood boil. It's one thing to be beaten. Sometimes that's going to happen, but to be beaten 4 to 5 passes in a row, uncontested, we know that we don't have the right scheme on the field. We know we're not playing hard enough. We need to figure out a way to slow them down at least.
Oftentimes that's just a result of lack of early communication on the line. That was a great pull from the Canadiens. This is James Yap, who's the eldest member of this Philippine Masters team. He's 40. Derek Ramsey the layout, putting it to the end zone, just shy of the goal line. And we're tied at 4. A very quick response from the Boracay Dragons. A fist pump from Junthier Flores, who's been one of the top guys on this Masters team all weekend long.
When you contrast the last 2 points, we just talked about how the Canadians looked great on offense, 4 or 5 passes, easy continuations, and Canadians and defense kind of let the Philippines do the same to them. The only difference being is that sometimes you're going to have the points where the Canadians almost get the block, or in general you almost get the block, and you walk away saying, okay, we had an opportunity to get a turnover, it didn't come through, but it was right there. That's the type of plays we need to produce throughout this game, and we're going to get the majority of them.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. The Philippines, the point previously, they weren't even established on defense. The Canadians were right there, just narrowly missing that D. And you're right, that's the kind of defense you want to keep playing. It's not always going to work 100% of the time, but if you're as close as they were, at some point you're going to give yourself those opportunities.
Yeah, this is a game where at the elite levels, the offense hangs onto the disc and scores more often than not. Not too many turnover field points, especially on the beach in 5-5.
J.F. Paul hits Ellenberger underneath. Reset for Paul. And now Sharma forces that underneath flick up the middle. Dussault, well, had Sharma open but looked him off. Swings it cross field, and a good job by Paul. And the Canadians just tried to force that there. Did Sharma call a foul? He called the foul from his knees. That looked like he forced that up line. I'd love to see a replay of that. What do you guys think? To my naked eye, it didn't look like a foul.
Not exactly sure to what contact he's referring.
He was on the ground. Take a good look here. Any contact.
Yeah.
At that point, he's playing by, and that's the point you brought up spirit on the pick call. That's playing to the letter of the law, knowing that contact will be there and taking just an absolutely risky opportunity. He doesn't make that throw unless he knows that there's contact.
Seeing that replay, I take back what I said. I'd say that's a foul. Tough break, though, for the Dragons when it looked like the Canadians had forced it. And it wasn't a great decision on that throw, but he got bailed out. Not in yet. Looking for a 5-4 lead. A lot of traffic in that front quadrant of the end zone. Sharma gets the reset. Some incredible end zone defense here from the Philippines.
Yeah, across the board, this point has brought a lot more defensive pressure from the Philippines.
This Canadian team has had that break when they needed it. We've seen the low release flick, and that time the around backhand. Canada up 5-4.
And that last throw, we saw some physicality by the Philippines mark. And this is what I see sometimes from international teams over the last several years is when they play a team like Canada, they play a team like the United States, and they sit there and they say, you know what, these teams are physical. They come in on defense, and they're all over you. They're ready to go. But what has happened in the recent years is that physicality has become so noted, and in the U.S. and Canada, as a result of some poor spirit scores, have actually started to play more effectively by playing off of their defenders and off of their marks. And if you see in that last goal, the Philippines' mark was so close that once the Canadian thrower was able to get over, there was wide open space for him to throw. It's more effective as a tool to actually back off a little bit on the mark, cut off the angles more effectively.
You're exactly right, especially with a team as experienced as Canada at throwing on the break side. They have that inside-out forehand. They have the around backhand. They're quite capable of executing that incredibly well. If you take a step back, you take away those options much more than if you're bodying up against your person.
Especially in the U.S. with the contact rule, which now any contact doesn't stop play. They can call contact and the count goes to 0. Physical marking has become ineffective altogether.
Oh, and an unfortunate drop there. James Yap just let the disc slip away, and now Canada looking for the game's first break. And Canada, a careless mistake in return. Yap for the captain, Hendricks Mamming. Canada saying he was not in. And a violation was called on the restart. Philippines team lost to Great Britain, the U.S. and Germany, have beaten Courier Island and India. Certainly this would be the best win of the week for the Philippines if they could get it. Maming on the brink to the end zone. The Philippines have tied it up.
It almost looks like we're seeing Seattle Sockeye out in the field with the Philippine style of play. And just Sockeye known for the give and go style. Philippines here emulate that so well. I'm not sure that they're actually copying, I should say not emulate. They probably have developed this beach chemistry where they have this quick movement, no problem, no hesitation whatsoever of getting the disc, hitting the next open man.
We've talked so much about this week about how difficult it is to run in the sand, and the three of us played a little 3-on-3 last night after the games, and it really is remarkable how the moment you stand still in the sand, your feet get buried just for a fraction of a second. If you can keep on your toes and keep yourself, keep your team moving, you are at a much greater advantage because you can move so much faster.
And I think this is going to speak to what we see in that final game or semifinals game once we see the Philippines in the open and mixed division. They are used to that. They are used to it, and they're ready to take advantage of the give and goes. A team like USA, which doesn't have that much chemistry, is relying on their pure talent to get open in a rhythm that's a lot slower than the Philippines. So they'll get open, survey the field, wait, find the next open person. The Philippines are going just pass, pass, pass when they're at their best.
And at times we've had a couple quick points, but mostly this has been a grind of a game. At the moment it's hard to envision us getting to 13. Canada taking a shot. The bid just comes up shy. It was J.F. Paul getting horizontal. The disc centimeters out of reach.
In the case, Craig is throwing downwind to Paul, and that looked like a throw that was going to be a goal. Didn't hang quite enough.
Yeah, so tough on that downwind throw on the beach. You know, on grass that's a score, but you don't have the same explosiveness on the sand.
I've been really impressed with Craig's play thus far. He's been the leader for the Canadians on the defensive and offensive side, it seems.
Craig, a guy who's played at WCBU Nationals a number of times with Phoenix and Goat. Now lives in Malaysia, where he works at an international fisheries and ocean research center. You walk around these fields and ask people what they do when they're not playing Ultimate, and you just get an unbelievable array of fascinating replies.
Yeah, one guy apparently is impersonating Brad Pitt in the Philippines.
For now, I'm inclined to believe that Brad Pitt is impersonating him.
You know, many in the United States have probably already read what was recently posted. Brett Matsuka, the captain of the USA Open team. Well, here's the Philippines with the first break of the game, taking a 6-5 lead here in the first half. Quickly tic-tac-toeing its way up the field. Brett Matsuka, a fascinating example of career and ultimate. He just published an article on SkyMagazine.com called Settling into Dubai, and it begins, "Last week I spent my time as an interloper out of place, a mathematician at a conference on clinical pharmacology and therapeutics, sitting in on a presentation on vitro experiments to help inform drug transport. I couldn't stop thinking about this week, Beach Worlds." He's a smart guy, Brett Matsuka, and he's dealt with a lot of some illness and jet lag, as we all have coming over here. But we saw the Team USA Open team beat Canadian team yesterday, a game that is up on YouTube, available to watch on demand. All the games from the last couple of days are up and available, and if this one continues, they're going to be playing it on a loop in Boracay over the next couple weeks and months. Now, we've seen the Canadian team handle adversity like this and bounce back, similar to the way that the Great Britain team did against Japan yesterday in the open division, where we saw them tested and come through. What are you expecting here, Brian, from this Canadian response?
This is a great game so far. I think this is actually the tightest match we've seen all tournament long. And I'd expect Canada to respond quite well in this situation, have the offense and the capability. The one thing against them is the wind has just picked up dramatically, up to probably around 20 miles an hour. And the Canadians are going to have the wealth of experience to deal with it. Still difficult to work it up the field.
You can hear that whistling wind. And it looks like offsides might have been called, or a violation on the restart. Just bleeding more time away from the limited time we've got to finish this game. And it was funny, yeah, you mentioned the wind. You know, the Philippines just worked it up the field, presumably going upwind. And this is actually the halftime change past the time cap at half. So the Philippines going to receive the disc here up 6-5 and going downwind.
Considering that Canada has been down 2 out of their 3 wins, I would have to say that this is actually going to help them focus and hone their energy. I think this is nothing but a boon for them.
And when we've been watching these games, Megan, we've both seen throughout this tournament that the magic number seems to be 3. Once one team gets a lead of 3, game seems to be pretty much out of reach with how short it is. Just, you really put yourself in a corner where you have to be perfect. This is reachable for Team Canada right now.
Thinking big, but deciding smartly to play it in the middle of the field. And it opens up space on the far side, and the Boracay Dragons Open Masters team leads Canada 7-5.
I see a lot of Canadian defenders over pursuing, biting on fakes from the Philippines, and it's opening up the field completely almost every single time. I'm not aware of what's going on. The Philippines are just moving too fast on offense for the defenders to keep up.
Beautifully executed put by Ramsey. He didn't have that wide of a margin to throw that, kind of kept his elbow close to his body so that he could put enough forehand spin on that disc.
This is just a great tournament to be at, though, Evan. It's beautiful outside. The beach we have all in front of us. We can see all of the games going down the line. It's been like a fantasy type of city when you look at the architecture. And I have to think that this was, there's some controversy in coming here in some ways, but when you have a chance to put Ultimate in the Middle East and have all the teams from Africa come out in India, it's a great time and a great time for the Ultimate community.
And there is a factor in that, most of these players are visiting the UAE for the first time. That's a very experienced, polish, outside-in flick from Jean-Francois Paul. And the Canadians back within 1 as we creep toward the soft cap, about 9 minutes shy of that time cap at the moment. But, people have been to Italy playing at Paganello for years and years, and there's a vibrant community in Asia, the Philippines. A lot of people have played in Singapore and Korea and Brazil, and the vast majority of the players here have not been to this part of the world before. And it's an eye-opening experience, I think, for the players, and a great opportunity for the exchange of cultures that we are witnessing before us. So 7-6 now the score, after Canada worked it downwind in a hurry.
Like you said, for a lot of people in our first time to the UAE, and the hospitality here is just incredible. Great service, a great place to come visit, and we're right on the edge of the beach where they actually have 2 of the biggest hotels here. Just quite great service, awesome time.
Philippines leading by 1 at the moment. Hendricks Maming, the captain. 36 years old. Been playing Ultimate for about 13 years. Dumps it back for James Yap. And underneath, absorbing the contact, Eric Ramsey gets it to Flores. Team from the Philippines. Right into the end zone again.
That's the second time Canada has thrown that zone on the Philippines, and both times we've seen such patience from the Filipino team. They really waited until there was a golden opportunity. Canada playing back a little bit, kind of creating the illusion of space down the middle of the field, but you saw they mostly worked it around the side, just inching their way closer until a few definitive cuts opened up, and they took full advantage of those.
I was watching downfield throughout the point to see what the defenders for Canada were doing, and they had some opportunities where they saw the opportunity to poach off, go for the block, but because they're playing on sand and they're used to timing it on grass, they were there, but too late. And the Philippines just know how to take advantage of that. They know what an open window looks like. It's different than being on grass. You have, if you're open by a step, it's like being open by 3 or 4 compared to grass.
Pressure on the Canadians right now. They're going downwind. This is Paul. You know, and you can see it in the body language of the Dragons. The energy with which they're defending. This is going to be a Canada score, but even still, Philippines up by 1 and sensing the potential to have their biggest win of the week.
That is not an easy throw by any stretch by Jamie Craig. You're throwing downwind. You have to take speed off the disc. And normally that's going to be an IO out to space, but it's an OI over the top. Great execution.
A fantastic touch. Evan Lepler with Brian Jones and Megan Tormey here from the Dubai beach on the shores of the Persian Gulf at 2015 WCBU, the World Championships of Beach Ultimate, the 4th ever Beach Worlds after Brazil, Portugal, and Italy in 04, 07, and 2011. Where should we go in 2019?
We can come back here. I'll be okay with that.
One thing I was thinking about earlier, and I wish I knew the answer, and I don't. I imagine there are a small handful of athletes that have played in 4 Beach World Championships. The Iron Men and Women of the Beach.
There was a time, I believe, in 2007 where the USA, as a result of the timing of Beach Worlds being in November, didn't exactly represent with their best of their best. So I think in the USA there's a broken chain of people that may have not gone consistently from 2004. You would have to look at some of the, I think the other teams, maybe like Portugal probably has some veterans that have gone through, since they only play beach, gone through all of these Beach Worlds.
Chatting with Dennis Hummerston, he's played at 3 Beach World Championships now, including this one. One of the 3 captains for Team Canada that could really use a defensive stop. Brown, what are you seeing in this zone defense here, and how is the Philippines ripping it to shreds?
Canada at first starts out flat, and they're trying to let Philippines just pass it back and forth, but they're being overly aggressive to the point where they open up holes downfield. Philippines are just executing very well at seeing the windows and throwing to the open receiver.
I would make that transition from zone to man just a little bit sooner. That's usually effective in an offense like this one. When you go from zone for 3 points, then to man, that's when you can start to disrupt that flow. But when you let them go down past halfway, they've usually figured things out.
Ramsey to Steedman. That little window beyond that front pylon, just enough space for the Filipinos. Will Steedman, an American on the Philippines team, who's moved to the Philippines a few years ago from Maryland, training with the Boracay Dragons. as some other Americans have done. Elliott Trotter, episode 1 of his great series with the Dragons. AJ Jakoski, Tim Morrow playing as well. AJ playing with the Open Filipino team.
And starting from the last Beach Worlds, where the Philippines represented well with silver and the Ultimate Media was available for us to see the streams, a lot of Americans have gone to the Boracay Open and have participated, and this is what the opportunity creates from these Beach Worlds. You never know if all of a sudden India will start hosting their own beach tournament where everybody will start going to the next 4 years.
Pretty much Canada with a must score. Paul, a big swing, gains yards. This is Matthew Dessau. Back for Paul. Sharma to the end zone, and Canada converts to Hugo Lefrancois.
This is a great place to be if you're a Canadian team who's used to comebacks. You're within one. So at any point in time, as long as your offense holds, you know your defense can come up with a potential stop, and then you send it to Universe Point where anything can happen. You only need one more. I think the spirit should be high on Team Canada, and they should be ready to go. I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody come up with a huge play.
Canada is in a spot here. They're going to need 2 breaks to win.
It is going to come down to whether or not they can put on a defense that stops the Filipino offense, which the last few points hasn't looked as effective as it did earlier in the game.
I don't think their zone is going to work in this case. I would like to see something almost like a forced middle where they would drop down a defender into the middle of the field off of a poach, letting the Philippines swing it back and forth. You might take it a chance of them finding a hole, but the Philippines have been nothing but moving forward constantly. If you get them to throw it backwards and side to side, you may get a miscommunication, you may get a turnover, you'll at least slow down the point in the way that zone wanted to.
And in exploring a more complex defense like a forced middle in this situation relies on team chemistry. And while everyone on this Canadian team has experienced every ultimate strategy more often than not over the course of their career, in their 1 or 2 days of practice on the beach here in Dubai, they have not perhaps developed that chemistry you need for such an equation.
It's always a double-edged sword when you're trying to choose a strategy that requires chemistry, but nothing else has really worked for Team Canada on defense. Here it looks like they're just simply going to go with man and force forehand.
Hendricks Maming, the captain. And there was a call away from the disc. The stall will come in on 0.
Some confusion in WFDF rules that the spot travel doesn't stop play. So if a player catches the disc, runs too far with it, sets his pivot foot in the wrong point, travel is called, player goes back to the spot, checks the disc, play is resumed.
Soft cap will be on after this point. Philippines could make it so Canada would have to score 3 in a row. Ramsey and Roney having a friendly discussion. And they cap it off with a firm handshake. Pick call downfield. Again, we mentioned earlier the reverence with which his teammates speak of him. Derek Ramsey, number 11, is a celebrity in the Philippines. An actor, a commercial model, and Megan has confirmed that he is quite the good-looking fellow. So a big moment in this game. The cap is off. Philippines up 9-8. Ramsey avoids the layup. Low throw, and it's incomplete. If Canada scores here, we would have one double game point for the universe. Low release, it hovers about a foot off the ground for LeFrancois. Laying out to keep the disc alive here, Matthew Dussault. Ellenberger on the under, guarded by Steedman. Two Americans representing other countries going head to head. Big swing, and it's incomplete. Too far to the sideline. Funny, this kind of feels like the game point here. Back and forth. But there will be at least one more after this one.
You could almost see that turnover coming, just how tired the Canadians look after the point.
And no substitutions in the middle of the point. Canada already used their timeout. Will someone make a run here for the Philippine team? Taking advantage of the LeFrancois poach, and now a deep shot. Ill-advised, perhaps. Steedman just was not anticipating it. Turned out to be a pretty good throw with where it landed.
Yeah, we're definitely getting into the later part of the game where mistakes like that become a little more common with so much on the line, and certainly everyone getting tired on both sides of the fence. You can kind of want to try and finish the game with one last pass.
There's a point at the human body where your heart rate gets high enough, and I think it's something around over 160, where all of a sudden the decision-making process goes away and gets more difficult over time. And so as these players play these longer points, it becomes tougher and tougher to figure out the right move, the right throw to make.
Say tougher to play defense when you're tired than offense?
In some ways, I think what really starts to happen, though, is your mental decision-making goes away, and that's why they want players who just got a big D in a big moment to walk away from the disc.
Roney up line, hits his target, Colin Young. And we are tied at 9, double game point upon us.
Roney threaded a bit of a needle right there. See his fist pump, not only out of celebration, but undoubtedly also out of thankfulness.
And now the question becomes, this is the point you want your top 5 out there, but can anyone who was on the field in that last point stay out there?
I think you've got to look at wholesaling your line on both sides of the disc. That you don't want a short point here, and I think we got to see somebody like Jamie Craig come on the field for Team Canada.
That was a defensive point for Canada, so they can basically have their top offensive line out there. And the Boracay Dragons walking very slowly, looking like the top O-line guys are going to try to play a second straight point.
I know they're coming from a position where they need to get the break to win, but right now my money's on Canada. Boracay is walking back. A lot of those players just played that long last point. This is a fresh line for Team Canada. It's gut check time, and I think the Canadians have proven throughout this tournament, Evan, that they can come back in these moments.
I agree with Brian. I think Canada really has the depth to make that wholesale change with the utmost confidence. Again, we're seeing some of the top names go out for this next point. It's just going to be very difficult to keep up that tense intensity, even as conditioned as this Filipino team is.
Canada has Fred Lee, Jean-Francois Paul, Dave Sharma, also Jamie Craig, and P.Y. Lever 2. For the Dragons, it will be James Yap picking up the disc out there with Will Steedman, Derek Ramsey, Hendricks Mamming.
Philippines have to go upwind, although the wind looks like it is swirling. Historically throughout the game, this has been the upwind point.
Gunther Flores, the other member of the Philippines, out there in the 5-on-5 double game point situation. Canada's defense is clamped down, but Steedman bails out Maming. And you said it, Brian, the wind has certainly become a factor. Great layout throw there by Maming. This is Ramsey underneath, narrowly evading the bid attempt of Craig. Can the Philippines work it down the field here into this wind to come up with this upset? They're taking a shot. It gets over the defense, and the Philippines have done it. Will Steedman sprawled out in the sand after a winning catch. 10-9, Team Canada goes down.
You know, Evan, sometimes I'm happy to be proven wrong. Had my money on Canada in this last point, but just the will and the mental fortitude. They had some situations at stall 8 or 9 where I thought for sure they were going to look to punt the disc, but they stayed with the receivers, and the Philippines able to work it down, and Jamie Craig just inches away. We'll take a look here.
On grass, no question about it, but on sand, that extra couple of inches, centimeters.
I'm sure Craig wishes he could have that moment again. Instead of following Steedman, he chose to plant and try and make a bid a little higher up the field.
How about that shot?
Wow.
I love the shot. I think Craig, it's just incredible how close this game was. We had 2 breaks.
Look at him, he thought he was gonna get buried in the sand. I'm tired, guys, don't crush me.
Let me breathe.
Water, please.
Will Steedman, originally from Maryland, comes up with a game-winning score. Derek Ramsey has his fame grow maybe a tick larger in his home country as the Philippines get the win in the Open Masters Division 10-9. Both these teams are now 3-3 with 1 pool play game left. That could be a very interesting 4-5 rematch in bracket play. We'll see how that transpires. Coming up in just over an hour here from the beaches in Dubai, we will have a matchup from the Open Division, India and Germany. That is 10 o'clock local time and 2 a.m. Eastern time and 11 p.m. Pacific time for those of you watching in Phoenix. For our entire crew, Dubai Sports and Sky Magazine, thrilled to be here with you. We'll take a quick break and be back for India and Germany in the Open Division in just over an hour. But for now, on behalf of my great broadcast team, Megan Tormey, Brian Jones, I'm Evan Lepler saying so long from Dubai, where the Filipino team takes down Canada in a Open Masters Division thriller, 10-9. The Filipinos get it done. Do not mess with the Boracay Dragons. We will talk to you soon.